Okay, welcome to the next video. I hope you're enjoying this series so far. In this video we're going to tackle the find helper, and as you can probably tell, the purpose behind the find helper is to search through an array. Hint, all of these helpers are about iterating through an arrays. So the find helper's purpose is to search through an array and look for a particular element. As soon as that element is found, and it will be found by the set criteria that we're going to set, helper will return that element to us. So like in the last video, let's begin with like the classical JS code that you could be writing yourself, and then we will turn that example into the ES6 version using the find helper. So to get started, similarly like in the previous video, we need an array of something. In this case, we will have an array of objects. So let's get started. Let's make a comment here that this is a classical JS example, and let's create a var, because we are using like not ES6 at this point. Var accounts, let's make them an array. Okay, and we want an array of objects, so let's think what one object can represent. Well, it can definitely represent many things, but in this example let's have like two properties. Let's have one property that is called username, and let's have another property that is called favorite color. Okay, and now let's think of some funny usernames. Let's type driver 13 for example, and let's assign him or her a favorite color of red. Then let's copy this line, and then let's call this one what can be some funny username, like coder 337, and let's make it a favorite color of course green. Okay, actually this should be hacker, sorry. Yeah, and then let's make this one a coder like 5, let's say. All previously were already taken. Favorite color, what about black this time? And then let's copy the drivers once again, and let's make same driver with the same username but with a favorite color of white, and remove this trailing comma. Okay, so now our job is to find object with username driver 13. Okay, so in the end we want to have something like var account that is going to equal this is our task right now, like this. We want to have this. Okay, so let's declare var account and let it be undefined for now, and then let's lean on our trusted for loop. So we will say var I is going to start at 0 as long as I is less than account.length I++. Then we want to check whether the current account's username is exactly the one that we're looking for. So we're looking for driver 13, and if that's the case, we want to set the account to that particular account, like this. Now I can come down here and console log and say like contents of account are this. Okay, I can now use the commander here or terminal to actually test this. So I'm going to be using Node as I did in previous video, but if you don't have any interest whatsoever in like the Node or like the server side JS programming, you can use any there are like many websites nowadays where you can simply code in the JS and see like output, like JS bin is one example, or even you can just open your Chrome browser and go to the DevTools, and there is like a console panel, and you can simply type all of these codes over there and the results should be the same. So in my case I'll go node and then the file name, and as you can see we have received back account, the one that we were looking for. Okay, now the small improvement, and I can actually make this always on top, why not? Okay, the small improvement that we can make is right now this for loop will go through all of these entries here, but instead we probably want to break after this condition was met, so you won't see any difference, but this for loop won't run through all of these entries anymore. And I just want to make a point about one thing. So you see we get back driver 13, favorite color is red, and as you can see this is the first one. So what this for loop is doing is, as soon as it finds an account that matches our description, it just returns us that one. So using this code and this array, we can never get this driver here with a favorite color white. That's of course unless we simply remove this line of code. Now we should see the driver 13 with a favorite color of white, as you can see here. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's comment out all of this and let's turn ourselves to a find helpers example. So we will do exactly same thing. So we will have an array of accounts, but this time I want to declare this as const because I want to keep using all the ES6 things that I can. And then we again will need to store the account that we find into some variable. So let's create account variable over here, and now let's actually move to the interesting thing. So similarly to how for each worked, find helper is a function that is available to be called upon an array. So in this example we have accounts that represents an array, and here with no surprises we see that function find. Okay, and this function again, like for each one, expects an anonymous function over here. By the way, that function over there is also called iterator function, just so you're aware if you're reading something and you come across that term. So again, let's provide it one. So I'm going to say function like this. Okay, now again similarly to how for each worked, this find will go through every entry in an array, and it will return that current entry in this function by this argument over here. So let's call it singular form of like a singular form of whatever collection you're iterating through is like pretty good way to go. Okay, and now inside of that function, this is a part that is different than the for each. So inside of this we want to return something, and we want to return a boolean. So we want to return true or false. Whenever we return true, that element is going to be returned by this whole thing. So let's say again we want to find object, actually account, with the username driver 13th. To do that we can simply write here account. Remember, the account is basically any of these objects. So whenever that particular account username is the one that we are looking for, then return it. And if you think about this, this part over here will evaluate to either false or true. And when this evaluates to true, this will pretty much read like that, and then this whole thing will return back that account. So we need to save whatever gets returned by this whole thing to this account variable that we declared previously. So let's go account equals this, and now similarly we can console log contents of account here. Okay, and if I come here and I run this again, we see the same thing as we did previously. Okay, now again we can get rid of this function and basically turn this anonymous function into a fat arrow one. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to put a fat arrow over here, and if you remember, whenever we have one argument we can get rid of this as well. And once more, if you remember from the last video or from your like ES6 knowledge in general, whenever you have a single return statement inside of a fat arrow function, you can basically do the trick that we did previously, where we get rid of the return keyword altogether with this and this. So now this is the same as previously. If I save this and I run this again, you see the same thing. And again, like the same thing that happened here, when I said that this finds the first entry that matches that criteria, again you can see the same thing here. So this first driver over here, favorite color is red, and we see that one. There is no way for us to get to this one unless we remove this line, and in that case it will be that one, because it is like the only driver in here. That also happens to be a first one this function comes across. So with that said, this is the end of this video. I hope you can appreciate like work .find does for us. As you can see, this is much more like cleaner than this one, and I hope that you will take some tips that you see in these videos and like apply to your everyday JavaScript work that you're doing. Like in case you're still not used to these helpers, I highly suggest you slowly but surely like get used to them. Okay, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one.